And good afternoon, and welcome to another session of God's Influence on American History. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Statue of Liberty. A lot of people are familiar with the fact that there is a quotation inscribed, a plaque on the Statue of Liberty about, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." A lot of people don't know that the young woman who wrote that poem was a Jewish girl by the name of Emma Lazarus. America has a huge heritage of Judeo-Christian principles. There have been some other religions that have had an influence on American history, but largely Judeo-Christian. Most of our monuments have some sort of inscription from either the Bible or from the Jewish or from the Christian religious perspectives. The Statue of Liberty celebrated its anniversary. It was a gift to the United States from the country of France. And there was a huge celebration, and I think it was 1986, the 100th anniversary of the statue being out there in the harbor. And there was a big celebration, and a singer, Christian singer by the name of Sandy Patty, sang a song and included a third line that talked about the Statue of Hope from the harbor shining. It's a quotation from some of the inscriptions that are on the Statue of Liberty. Liberty, freedom from tyranny, liberty, freedom to worship as you see fit, or to choose not to worship if you see fit, but not to deny other people their chance to live free, to be able to make decisions for themselves, to be able to be citizens and able to do things like voting and living their lives, owning property, that sort of thing. Liberty is an important concept. And a lot of people know about the inscription in the Statue of Liberty. My own father was a World War II vet, and he was in the European theater. So he sailed to Great Britain from New York Harbor, was in Britain, then in France, and in Germany, and sailed from the port of Marseille back to the United States once the war was over with, and both times exiting to go off to war and returning to come home on those, quote, victory ships. He passed by the Statue of Liberty. It was a huge symbol for him and for many of the troops who were on those transport ships coming and going. As they went off to war, they knew they were going to fight to try to free peoples in Europe who had been overrun by another country. They knew when they came home that some of their friends had paid an ultimate price, had died on the battlefield, and would not be coming home. They knew that some of their fellow soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines were coming home drastically different because they had been wounded, severely wounded in some cases, in the service of their country. And seeing the light in the harbor and knowing what liberty stood for, they now had a deeper appreciation of what it meant to live in a land like ours where we have constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. Miss Lazarus, who was, like I said, a Jewish poet who wrote the inscription that we find on the Statue of Liberty, found religious freedom here in this nation. So did the Pilgrims, who came from an entirely different religious perspective. So have a lot of other people. Religious liberty is worth celebrating. So is liberty. For the over 245 years now that we've been a nation, people have had the freedom to live their lives and to choose whether or not they wanted to worship God and how they wanted to worship God. Sometimes people who have religious convictions have been persecuted either by other people who didn't believe as they did, sometimes by the government. But the ideal that we still need to strive for, even in the 21st century, is to respect the fact that here we are free to worship God however we see fit, or to, regrettably, to choose not to worship God. Liberty is an incredible privilege. Choose wisely. choose to worship God. Thanks for watching.